Absolute, massive, colossal dubs this weekend. Hide your children. Hide your wives. If you have a League of Legends podcast that talks about the LCS, hide your face.
Yeah.
Hide your power rankings that you made at the beginning of the year. Hide those takes about not making playoffs because they're all moot at this point.
We did it.
We did it. 100 Thieves didn't just lock playoffs this weekend. They didn't just lock a tiebreaker with a team like Team Liquid, who won't be participating. They didn't just lock double elimination, even. They locked third place.
That's insane. Can we just start with saying that's insane, Cole? What?
That's insane, Jordan.
Is happening? Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Literally unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
First of all, this is 100 Talk. I'm Cole. That's Jordan. Obviously, we're talking about 100 Thieves LCS because what else is there to talk about? Excuse me.
Mm-mm.
This is what the night is all about.
This is all there is. This is the only sport happening. This is the only thing worth watching, Cole. It's all here.
Every projection had us like fifth at the highest. Most people had us missing playoffs.
Yeah. Like that
did not happen. We did not miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had us squeaking in one of those last two spots making playoffs. We didn't just squeak in. We kicked open the door like the Kool-Aid man and said, "Oh yeah."
Think about this, Cole. This is all we're going to say about Team Liquid. We went 1-1 with them this split. Had we lost that first game, they'd have been in playoffs.
That's true. We kept Team Liquid out of the playoffs. And we went 1-1 with them on the Rift, 2-0 with them on Twitter this year. I'm really excited to talk about this because the banner behind me says Trust the Papa, and it said Trust the Papa for a very specific reason. That reason being, at the beginning of the year when this roster was announced and revealed, actually even before they announced this roster, the messaging was, look, this year is going to be a year where we're going to really analyze what's happening, take a slower approach, play our hands more carefully, and not just go all in at finding the best everything we can. They said, slow your expectations down, just roll with it, and give us time. So we trusted the Papa.
Trusted him.
Where did that trust get us? It got us higher than TSM. It got us higher than Team Liquid. It got us higher than, 5 other teams? This has been...
the rest, Cole. We are truly the best of the rest.
This is wild. I cannot believe that this has happened. With this roster, with this gamble of a mid laner, I don't know. This is just wild. And I am so happy today to talk about all the stuff that happened this weekend.
Well, and I think most importantly, Cole, let's just start with this. They made the roster moves that needed to happen in the middle of the split, meaning they didn't change a single thing.
That's right.
They started the first round robin 3-6, and they believed and they trusted and they finished in third. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what you get when you don't do a Twitch reaction to a slow start and flip everything upside down and dump out all the progress you've made and fire your coach and fire your strategic coach and fire your mid laner and fire your support player. And you actually just kind of let it go and see what happens. It's not always the right move. And I will be the first to admit, we talked about the potential for those things needing to happen, Cole, but we're not the coaching staff. And we aren't paid the big bucks to figure this stuff out. And the people who are did. And that is how you end up in third place in a split that most people optimistically said you could potentially qualify for playoffs in.
Yeah. So that being said, there's so much to talk about. We played 4 games this weekend. We're not going to do our usual breakdown each game in detail. what we are going to do is hit some takeaways from the games that apply to, I think, the big picture of 100 Thieves. And then we will take a look at the upcoming playoff road, because it's a little bit of a doozy if you haven't seen it yet. And then if we have time, we'll just hit another couple of topics before wrapping up tonight. So first game of the weekend, I confidently predicted that we would lose against TSM. Jordan, optimistically in my mind, confidently predicted that we would win.
Ever the optimist, I did.
One of us is feeling embarrassed. That would be me.
Again, this is the same note we used last week.
Look,
that game, Cole, is anything but an embarrassment to somebody who picked against us, because we finished with less gold than them, I'll just say. It was not by any means a stomp or a rout or a decisive, no questions asked victory, but it was a dub. Very importantly, it was.
It was a dub, and as the saying goes, we take those. So just hitting on some of the things that happened in this game that we think are kind of indicative of the larger picture. Now, I want to talk about how we got into the hole first, and talk about some of the deaths that happened. Here's the thing. As I was, and I shared this in the Discord, so people in the Discord will know this. As this game was going on, I was conscious that I might curse the team by what I decided to write in my Google document. Okay.
It's a powerful document. Truly.
It really is a powerful document. Now, in the beginning, we were kind of back and forth, and we were looking even with them for the most part, I think. Mm-hmm. And I, of course, always have my eye on Stunt. All right. That's where I'm looking first every game at this point is what is Stunt doing? So we get, I don't know how far into the game it was. It was probably like right around 20 minutes. And I start typing, you know what? This is literally my note. Feels like Stunt is playing a lot better again. I wrote this. This is my writing. This is not me talking now. I hesitate to write that note and jinx him. And as I was typing jinx him, he gets killed in mid, which really blew open the game in a negative direction. Yeah. And right after that, Meteos got caught out too, right before an important Drake was up. And the rest of the note on that part of the page is indecipherable because it's just a mash of a bunch of letters.
Yeah.
Some caps, some not.
Yep. A lot of punctuation in there, sprinkled in.
Yeah. And so the costly death thing, the untimely death thing, is like the thorn in our side that won't be removed. And I don't know, Jordan, if you think we have any chance of fixing this issue, or if we're just playing the odds and hoping it doesn't bite us often enough.
Cole, it's the latter. And let me tell you how I feel confident in saying this. It's because this is not the only game. We've played 4 games. And let me just come out and say, me trying to keep up with 4 games and then potting moments after I finish watching the 4th game is a tough schedule. But I did it for the team. I'm going to do it for the team.
You took one for the team.
They put in the hard work. I just show up. So the details may be a bit foggy for me on some of these. But what I do remember, Cole, is I think that Stunt has nerves. I think he has big time nerves. I think he's super nervous. These were some of the more egregious. Okay. You talk about costly deaths. We're going to talk about some other things specifically from Stunt, and all in the lens of what does this mean going forward, right? I like the way you've framed this up. What are some of the takeaways we have from these games as we start to transition into, hey, we're back in playoffs. Isn't this cool? And it is. It's super cool. So I don't want to lose sight of this and become like an overly critical time, because this is a huge celebratory moment for the team. And
yeah, sure.
We don't want to become downers here, but I think this is just the first step, right? This is kind of the long game that we've always been wanting to get back to, which is perennial contender and challenger for top 3. Like, this is great. When you talk about Stunt, I think he has big time nerves because you go back and watch some of these plays, he is flailing. He's absolutely flailing. There's a play in this game where he cues at the edge of the map or edge of terrain and misses it. And then he flashes, he fail flashes short of a wall. And it's just like he completely whiffed it, you know? And it was a kind of an important moment. Like him not getting out of that meant that we were basically running scared. And that's not the only time he did that in the last few days, right? There's been a lot of super high stakes games, so I get it, but it is one of those things that I think it's becoming more of a tell versus like, well, that was a high stakes moment and he fat fingered a button. So that's one of the things that jumped out at me, Cole.
That's interesting because I never looked at it in the terms of maybe this is nerves. I just kind of looked at it like he's done this a lot, this split.
There are some things that we've seen a continuation of, right? But this felt a little bit different in that. I mean, we've seen him take bad Nautilus cues, right? That's kind of, it's not the first time, but this was like, whoa, you missed them all, dude.
I will say that at the last time I checked Oracle's Elixir, which I don't believe has been updated for week 9 because they haven't gotten data from Riot or something like that. But at last check, Stunt led the league in deaths among supports. And he had 60 and the next highest was 50. So he definitely dies at a higher rate.
Yeah.
I will say this about Stunt though. I thought in this game there was still a higher amount of good mixed in with the bad than is typically present. And while there was this very key moment that ultimately didn't end up costing us the game, but it did dig a very deep hole for us. While there was that moment, there were also more positive moments and like just overall less bad, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, and we're gonna continue to talk about these things as we move through the games, but I think a lot of people thought Stunt played better on the weekend as a whole, and I agree with that. I just don't think we have exercised all those demons yet.
Nope.
So we ended up in this massive like hole to TSM, and there were I don't know, just like we've talked about grit about this team, and I fully expected, in fact, after that infamous note where I jinxed him was when like Bjergsen got the pentakill right into the Baron take and put us down 8,000 gold in the hole.
What a sinking feeling that was.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I could see it coming. It was so bad, dude.
Yeah. But yeah, so after seeing that, it was like, I really thought this was FF Go Next. Like I said, this game is chalked already, you know? Which again, I'm reverse cursing us because it obviously wasn't.
Just say it.
But I wanted to talk about Cody because Cody Sun has been someone who all split until basically this past weekend, maybe a little bit the weekend before too. We have been calling on to make a step up. We've said, you know, this guy has been quiet all split. And we understood that quietness because we felt he was challenged in his support position. So he was kind of, you know, it was almost like a handicap against most matchups. But we knew that if we wanted to reach another rung on the ladder with this team, that we needed his performance to be better. And again, while I will say that in the previous weekend, he started ramping up a little bit, this was the breakout game for him where I felt like he was a huge difference maker to the point where I believe we should name this move after him on Aphelios, the flash in to get the triple kill.
That was so sick.
While it was looking like a certain like ace for them. Yeah. And our topside jungle. He flashed in and got a triple kill out of nowhere.
There's a flash double on the bot lane too. I think that was the same game.
Oh yeah, that might have been the same game too. I have to
like
look
multiple routes through the course of the fight, a flash forward to get the last little bit of flamethrower splash, finish people off.
Yeah.
He was feeling himself in this game for sure. Right. There's no doubt about it.
And look, we know Someday makes crazy plays, like he's done that all the time. We're not used to Cody making such impactful plays, and I really felt like that was the thing that turned the tide here.
Yeah, and for me, the biggest difference, it it just feels a little bit, to use an overused phrase, it felt a little bit like swagger, right? Like flashing forward in lane to pick up a kill is not something we've seen him even try very often. Probably because he doesn't want to throw games.
Yeah, he has PTSD from his rocket jump, right?
Well, partially that, but I think too, if you're not super confident in the person behind you, you're guaranteeing that you're going to lose the lane if you're taking aggressive plays, right? Like you got to have confidence that you're not going to be flashing into a 1v2 that you lose, right? So I don't know, like I'm not in any way saying that they've got something like clicked and they've got it figured out in the bot lane. I just think for whatever reason, like, I need to go back and look at it, but maybe he got, is this one of those games where he got a pretty good power advantage early? Like, it's almost like, I think we saw a couple of those this weekend where he had a pretty good start, right? Either a good CS lead or a kill or two. And I think he is the kind of player who, when he has a power advantage, he's going to push it and he's going to punish. Like the Lucian game, I think was another good example of that, where he was punishing early, just really pushing the tempo. So I just think we haven't seen a lot of games of the split where he's had that kind of an opportunity. And for me, again, talking about what we can expect to see going forward, he's revealing himself to not just be a hyper carry, show up at 25 minutes and win you guys a team fight, and then you walk it down mid, right?
Yeah. And that is an important evolution for us, because for 100 Thieves, it seems like for the most part, that has been his role, is just farm until the end and see if he can make a difference. So yes, like I thought this weekend we truly saw that evolution, and I'm so excited for that, because if our bot lane, even if our bot lane just starts going even with people more often, or getting advantages over the weaker teams that we might run into on the bottom side of the bracket, that's a huge deal for us. And for me, like I'll have to really think about it. And again, your point on we watched 4 games this weekend, like that may cloud a little bit, but I don't remember seeing Kabe like do much. I felt like for the most part he was outperformed by Cody Sun, which is exactly what we want to see.
Yeah. I mean, I am with you on that. I think he finished 4-3-10, which is a respectable stat line, of course. But I don't think that lane was where he was doing a lot of the work right throughout that game. So yeah, this was a really encouraging game against really stiff opponents, right? Like this was by no means just it wasn't like you show up and you have a highlight reel guaranteed. So yes, good to see. We're not at the point where I'd say this is a consistent thing we can rely on yet. And that is, to me, the next step that we need to start seeing.
Sure. For
us to start, like we talked about last week, turning this into a reliable factor in games that we can use to our advantage.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about your note on this game before we do the...
Yeah, and this kind of ties into some of the things. I know one of the notes you've got for a future game a little bit is just kind of macro level stuff. I was scratching my head, Cole, on these Baron attempts.
Oh,
they
man.
They made no sense to me at all. And it was kind of like we started with Baron up and we're like, no, guys, we're not situated right. We're not bunched correctly. The Sand Soldiers are only going to get 3 of us. So let's just, okay, disengage. We'll try it again. Come back in like 2 or 3 minutes. Try again. Like, oh no, that's not good either. Let's come on. Let's we can do better than that.
Yeah.
And then finally we show up, and Bjergsen is there, and he must have been doing like 2,000 damage per second. It was insane. His Qs were hitting 3 people, or just the Sand Soldier, right?
Yeah, the Sand Soldier.
Is the autos through them. So that was gross, and we have got to get better at that. Some of these team comps, I think, are they're not set up to play the kind of game that we're trying to play. And I think this is one example where we just didn't have the burst there to really rush this thing down in the way. If we had a team comp that could actually burn this thing, this game would have been completely different, because we had pretty good jumps on these. It just took so long that TSM could kind of just meander on over and get the setup they wanted, and then either push us off or make us pay. So
Yeah, and I mean, the first like so Bjergsen did have that one where he like just destroyed everybody and he ended up with a pentakill. There was also the take though. I think it was the first time we got onto Baron where he just zeroed in on Ryoma, and like Ryoma's health bar, like it's different from when you get a huge crit, and like the health bar just collapses.
Yeah.
It's a different thing than to see it just gradually deplete.
Right.
From the Sand Soldiers, right?
It's almost scarier.
Yeah, yeah, right. It was like, oh, okay, he's taking some. No, that's damage. Whoa.
Yeah. He's running. It's not working. Get out.
Yeah, and man, that was brutal. And the thing is, it's like, so it was so obvious, right, that Bjergsen was going to be the damage threat that would ruin those Baron takes for us. That when we had the second opportunity to do it, because Bjergsen was on the other side of the map, we kind of ho-hummed for too long.
Yeah.
And allowed him to get back up.
Right.
Where he promptly erased our team. And Dardoch just said, okay, here's a cataclysm for you. Please invite your soldiers to come inside.
Right. Yeah. They can go wherever they'd like. So this is great. This is perfect for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is real nervy. And we came very close to just handing that game over a few times with that.
Yeah, and it was really, like I said, the Cody Sun play really made a difference. I think on the heel of that, Someday got a miracle kill on Kabe with Ornn, where it didn't look like he had a prayer, but he must have exactly done the math on the HP remaining, and he had just enough to combo Kabe and takes him down. And then somehow Meteos got away from, who was it? Was it Broken Blade that was chasing him? So it's like like we lived up to our name of Thieves during that fight. And that was so crazy because after that, we just started to win team fights. We just started to win fights. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. We're actually just going to beat them in every fight. So let's roll. Let's fight. You guys want to fight?
Yeah.
Let's fight.
That was wild, man.
Yeah.
What a game. Grit is the thing. So this weekend could have gone so many different ways. They're playing 4 games in the span of 3 days. All to see what position you're going to finish, like the whole range available to us, including not making playoffs at the start of this thing. Like, it's remarkable that we finished where we did. And I think the thing that I am almost most glad about is that we didn't get here because of a fluke, right? Like, we legitimately won the games that we won. And I think a lot of them took a lot of grit to get to. So I think we can feel really good about that, right? Like, this TSM game was pretty much lost and we won it. The CLG game was crazy, and we'll get to that in a second here, but a ton of heart to finish where we did. And so you can kind of feel good about it too, that this is an earned third place. And I'm sure people will argue that we're actually a trash team and that we don't deserve third and we're not actually the third best team and all these things. But you look at what it took to get us here, and I think you'd have a hard time saying that we are not deserving, at the very least, to be in the playoffs. And it's a pretty tight-knit group in the playoffs. So we won some of those key games that we needed to get where we did, including this TSM one.
Right. And that is just like the fact that on the back half of the split, we really, aside from the tiebreakers, we only lost to C9, understandable, and Team Liquid, when Liquid had, an excellent game. So yeah, it feels good to firmly establish, because it wasn't like, oh, well, we beat Golden Guardians and Immortals, but we lost to Dignitas, and you know what I mean? Like, we didn't have any of those asterisks by our wins or by our names in the second half of this round robin, so it was,
or even that we started hot and then it was like, and then every other team kind of figured out how to play League of Legends again, and but everyone else was so muddy that we still finished third. It's whatever. Like, we clawed our way back to finish what we did. And
TSM was the game. By winning that game, we assured ourselves playoffs, which was cool. Yes. But we had more work to do. And I had this feeling in my gut that CLG was going to be a tougher game than the records would really indicate. I think that they were 3-14 when they played us.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
And sometimes in these situations, it's like you get a team that has nothing to gain and really nothing to lose.
Right.
And so they might just do something wacky. You know, they might do something kind of weird, kind of different, something that you probably haven't planned for, and then just see what happens. Because at that point, right, they're kind of experimenting. They're just letting people do stuff because the split's already lost. So what other information can we learn before it's over? You know,
and it's pretty much the definition of a trap game, right?
Yes, exactly. It's a trap game because it's, you know, that you can debate how much we have to win here. Plus, the opponent isn't one that you'd anticipate they spend as much time preparing for as TSM.
Right. Yeah.
You already won the big pressure game to make it in a playoff, so you know you might lose focus a little bit, and maybe that's what happened. But yeah, I think this game against CLG was closer than it should have been, and I think a lot of the reason for that was just the chaos that they played with. But that's actually super great for us, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So here's what they did, right? So the Camille pick into Aatrox was actually kind of a big deal, even though it's Someday that's, you know, going against, so you can feel safe that Someday is really going to do his job. But Camille can be a sneaky strong pick. With all the mobility, being able to lock people down with the X-Tech ultimatum. Yeah. And so when you can put people in prison for a little bit like that, and you have Pantheon who can use that time to join the fight, and was a pick that I don't think we played much against. I know Niski played Pantheon mid against us, I believe. Yeah. Other than that, I'm not sure we saw one.
I feel like it's definitely rising in priority.
I think it is
a lot right now. And
then we had Pobelter pulled out Echo, which is, as I understand it, one of the classic counters, right, to Syndra. Yeah. And boy, did that counter Syndra.
Yeah, he had the most deaths or the most kills of any player with a 2, 1, and 3 stat line that I've ever seen, Cole. I swear to you, he killed at least 10 of our players. He was terrorizing us. I cannot believe he finished 2, 1, and 3. Am I wrong? Like,
yeah, no. It seemed like he was just destroying everybody the whole game.
Yeah, there's a couple of very close calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't just playing Echo, it was playing aggro Echo. Like he was really going for it. They directed a lot of attention at Ryoma to shut him down. And I mean, and it worked.
It largely worked.
They were causing a lot of chaos with this. Braum Varus in the bot lane, whatever. But the rest of their picks, I thought were like really good for us to face because it just wasn't what we were used to. It's probably not what we prepped for. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's so when you're able to face that kind of chaos and not lose your focus, that's a pretty big deal because we were like looking like we were going to go down pretty significantly.
Yeah.
After that. And one of the things about the way that it happened was that their a lot of their macro choices early were actually pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Just some of the decisions they made on map movements really put us in a bad position early, man. It was really hard to deal with. Like Wiggly seemed to ult in at the wrong time every time for us. You know what I mean? Like great time for them. It took Someday a little bit to start bullying Ruin, which we're used to Someday bullying from the get-go. But it took him a little bit. They like dove our bot lane, they dove our mid lane, they dove our top, like they were all over.
Yeah, they were everywhere. My similar note here is that they used the most globals of a team who only had one global, right? It felt like they were just everywhere on the map. And I think that's because they had great rotations. People showed up, right? Pobelter using the mobility of Echo to just kind of be places you didn't expect him to be, clearly resulted in fewer kills than I remember it doing. But yeah, I mean, their team comp was one that they were able to execute on very, very well. With the Pantheon, every time Pantheon showed up, it was like, well, there goes the fight. there goes the fight. It was close until, well, there's Pantheon. And yeah, and the Camille, if I were, if I'm C9, I'm taking notes. Let's get in a couple reps on the Camille. If I'm Licorice, start spamming that Camille. Aatrox is such a safe pick in the top lane.
He already safely played it into us. And
exactly.
Dominated.
But dust it off, kind of get refamiliarized. Because I think it's one that it's either, I think it's more just the matchup is very unfavorable. There's so much in the kit of Camille that allows her to basically just neutralize what Aatrox is up to.
Mm-hmm.
The lockdown, the dashing, the stun, arriving with a stun that can kind of cancel out the Qs and just mess that all up. If you cancel those Qs, it's just like the Aatrox's kit is empty.
Yeah.
So I'm a little worried about that. Now it's an exploitable pick, right? It's not a surefire thing, but it's talking about kind of the future for us. This is the most vulnerable and kind of mortal that Someday has seemed, is when he's up playing Aatrox against Camille, which I think is super interesting.
Now I have to dole out my kudos for this game, because obviously we won. And I really thought that even though it might not have jumped off the screen, I think Meteos did a ton to salvage this game and to keep us in it, because he was trying to match their pressure that they got with Wiggly. He was showing up to support Ryoma. He managed to work with the bot lane to get enough pressure to take Drakes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of unbelievable that we got Soul in this. And I know at one point we were up 3-0. I don't know if we 4-0'd him on Drakes, but we were definitely up 3-0. Okay, right. 4, yeah. And Meteos was able to grab Rift Herald and send it mid to buy some time on that. And his Sejuani play was really good, I thought, in this game.
Yeah, agreed.
And I thought I'm not sure how well it showed up when you think about the game, but man, was he crucial and important and a veteran, because in the face of the chaos, he knew what to do to get us through the mid game where things would be rougher and start to turn it.
Yeah. And you look at our stat lines. We had two players with more than one kill, Someday, and Cody Sun, who had 8 on Aphelios. So another one of those games. And honestly, the double kill I was thinking of might have been from this game. I can't separate the two in my mind. But it feels good to see him on this champion. I think more and more, I don't know, maybe he's just more comfortable with Aphelios, right? It's got a pretty good curve on it, and double lift on Senna, maybe despite it being a powerful champion that was effective, just wasn't his champ.
Yeah.
I'm not buying too much into that, but for whatever reason, Cody Sun has arrived on Aphelios, and it's fun to see him play it now for sure.
Yeah, which is interesting too, because he was caught out a couple times, pushed up too far, and they were making really decisive dives and really decisive map plays to make sure they got kills, maybe a little bit to their detriment at sometimes, but they at least, it started to feel very frustrating watching it, on the side of 100 Thieves, because it just seemed like they were always able to shut things down. And when you see your bot laner give over 2 deaths when they were, pushed too far up and caught out of position, that can be one of those things that makes your mental dissolve, And so again, I think the veteran side of this team really was able to keep things together. Look, I know Cody's dying right now. I know Ryoma can't do a literal thing into this echo, but just give us some time and we'll get things in place. And that's exactly what happened in this game.
And, to the counter to my earlier point on the macro, right? We took Baron, we took all 4 Drakes, 9 turrets to 6, a couple of inhibs, right? That's a pretty clean line. It's not perfect, but when the way we started talking about this game, I'm like, oh, we got rolled, the early part of this game definitely felt like a game that we were poised to lose. And we came back again. Now, coming back against CLG is never something that feels good to say.
No, yeah, not at all.
But I do agree with you. I think And honestly, when you look at this lineup on paper, it's like, how are they this bad? Like, these are all very respectable players with a rich history in league, and maybe, a couple of them less so than others, but it's not like they just threw out an academy squad, So
just one more moment before we move on to FlyQuest, that this just plays into the same kind of thing we were talking about, but it kind of stood out to me was when Ruin was, where is this? He was split pushing while we were taking Baron, and he was moving very fast through our bot lane.
Yeah.
He took the tier 2 turret very quickly and moved straight on to 3. And I feel like a less confident team backs off that Baron way faster than that.
Yes.
Because they see how quickly that he's moving, or like, you send too many people and then you open yourself up to have, to get pushed off of that. Like, I don't know. I just thought like the poise of this team during this game was great. And that was a moment where I felt nervous myself, but the team knew like, no, we got this.
Yeah. They got the Baron, they hit the empowered recalls, and that was kind of the end of it, right? They measured it out and they said, yep, that's fine. He can take that. That'll work for us. Which I think, there's another game where split push was attempted, and that was kind of the same thing, right? It's like, sure, have that turret and we'll take your whole base. This is fine with us. This works. So.
Yeah. Well, so coming off that game, it was like we had a pretty crazy come from behind win against TSM. Then we had get hit by a few punches early and then make your way back into it with CLG. So it was high time for a good old fashioned stomping.
Yes, it was.
And we found a willing participant in FlyQuest. And this game was a big deal, right? This is a tiebreaker game. This is a must win for us to continue up the ladder, right? Because if we lose this game, then we're stuck in 4th place, which means we're obviously getting picked by C9. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if we win this game, there's no way they're going to pick C9 over us. Or there's no way they're going to pick us instead of FlyQuest. You know what I mean? And anyway, so this game was like important for us. And I want to start with the team comp in the draft, because something that has been the case for us in the recent history has been we've been winning a lot, but we also haven't shown much with our team comps. It's basically been the same kind of team on this streak. It's like, oh yeah, Cody Sun's playing Philios. Oh yeah, Stunt's playing Nautilus. You know what I mean? Like every game. Oh, some days on Aatrox, cool.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Oh, Ryoma is on LeBlanc or Zoe. Got it. Like we have been, for much of the second half of this split, the same kind of team comp. Mm-hmm. And that honestly to me was like, going into this game, I was like, this is going to be a very targetable and exploitable like weakness of this team, is that we haven't been able to show anything different.
Yeah.
To a significant degree. So when we drafted, we got Someday on Set, which we've seen, Meteos on Sejuani, which we have seen. It's not like his constant pick, right? But we've seen it. Ryoma on Syndra. But then Cody Sun took Lucian, which I think was a very like unexpected pick from my end. I don't know about you, but it's like the Lucian pick was just different for me. I was like,
Yeah. And one of the things I was trying to remember is how many of FlyQuest bans were targeted toward bot side? Isn't this the game where they banned out a whole bunch of marksmen?
They banned Tom Kench, Nautilus, Aphelios, Ezreal, Varus. So yes, 5 out of 5 bans were in the bot lane. Obviously those last 2 bans are predictable because we saved the bot lane picks.
Right. But
yeah, they took away Stunt's comfort, and they took away Cody Sun's comfort in Aphelios, excuse me, which we had just seen.
Yeah.
And so to me, it felt like this big challenge. Like, all right, can we play a different bot lane? Can we integrate that with the rest of the team and still be successful? And honestly, I was worried about it because I was not sure, but I knew that it would mean a lot for us to prove that we could win with something different. Otherwise, we would basically be beat in draft every game through our matches in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah, and it's a different approach. I mean, it kind of feels like FlyQuest went in this game saying, okay, who's their weakest player, and can we punish that? Right? Can we?
Yeah.
Like, you're really not. I think that Ryamel's been drawing more bans, like legit bans. This is not an exploit ban. This is a let's not play against that champ that he's got ban, which is great. You know, like LeBlanc we're seeing come through pretty regularly. This is a different approach, right? And I think one that I was pretty worried about too. I did at one point in this game, like, oh yeah, Safe Braum. Safe
Braum. Remember Safe Braum?
Yeah. Anybody who watched the Academy cast from last year would remember that Stunt is the Safe Braum. And it came through 0-1-11. That's about as safe a pick as you get. So I mean, you can't ban out every support champion, and luckily he still had one he could play, and he did. After watching that, I was like, should we not have him playing Braum more often? Like, are we sure Nautilus is always who we need him on? But yeah, you know, it was a Cody Sun I was super interested to see on Lucian.
Yeah, right.
And I thought it worked really well, man. Like, surprisingly well. It was a champ that he, I think you were tweeting either during or sometime around to say, like, I don't like that this is not the champ we can rely on to blow this game up toward the end, right?
Yeah, and in an important game, right?
Yeah, and it turns out we didn't need him to. And he unpredictably, I would say, generated his own advantage in the early game, right? In lane, which was a new look, and that he carried through toward the end of the game, which didn't come that much later.
This dude popped off. Like, let's not undersell this. I mean, he had so much pressure on them. He was like absolutely pumping out damage into the bot lane and forcing them to either push back or just all out recall. He pumped so much damage into stuff. It was crazy. And I'm just not used to seeing that aggression out of him in the beginning. And we've talked about how perhaps that is a sign that he doesn't feel like he has all of that confidence with his support, you know, or that, you know, they don't feel like they can trust it enough to really make a push early. Cause obviously as an ADC, if you get behind early and you feed kills early, it's extremely bad. It's like terribly bad. But no fear in this game at all. He knew exactly what to do. He knew exactly how to play into the Misfortune Yuumi and really pumped out the damage. And I was just like loving every second of it. It was like, yes, Cody Sun is fully online now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you love to see it.
Super fun game to watch. Tons of action, tons of kills coming our way. Someday on set was an interesting one. I don't think I believe that the haymaker turning that sure double kill up top into a kill for us. That was the EG game, right?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was the beginning of the EG game. But yeah, he had his moments here. Like, he had 2 plays kind of consecutively at the end that basically ended the game. He went off in a team fight and I think got a couple kills, and then he just like turned on like the homing system and went after Wild Turtle like deep into their base and just erased him. It was amazing. But we know he's amazing, right?
Yes. Nothing new.
Another thing I wanted to point out about the FlyQuest game, and actually this is the totality of the weekend up to that point, was that we did so much better on objective control this weekend. Like, worlds better. You could not like imagine how much better it was, and to the point where I think game 1 we 4-0'd for Seoul. Game 2 I think was 4-1, and then in this game was it 4-0 also?
Yeah, 4-0.
That we got Seoul. So it was 3 games in a row that we got the Seoul, and in addition to like picking up Rift Herald along the way, because a lot of times, you know, you trade like Rift Herald for a dragon or whatever, and we're not missing out on Rift Herald. Like, over these games, it was really impressive to see us locking down those objectives. And I don't think, I mean, I'd have to really like check the stats or whatever to make sure I'm not talking out of my butt here, but really didn't feel like we had this much focus on the Drakes before, like just laser focus on them. Not that we never had a solo before, but you know, and that just really paid off in these games. And it made me feel like we had more of a game plan,
right?
You know, going into them. And especially when the games are so critical, man, you have to show that sort of stuff because you have to give the other teams that are going to be looking at us for playoffs, something to plan for, right? Like get them something to be busy with, like something to think about, something to complicate their plans.
Yeah.
And when you're consistently taking those objectives, they know they have to make a decision about how to handle that.
Right. A couple of things I left with the impression on this game is solo, still not it, man. 1-6-1 on the Aatrox just got absolutely.
It was my favorite 1-6-1 Aatrox I've ever seen.
And one of the better puns, by the way, from Freak on that one. His health was so low.
Really nice. Good. I didn't get that.
And then Ignar on Yuumi. Still, I'm not convinced on Yuumi, man. I really don't want to see us play Yuumi again. I understand that it can be a powerful champion. They must have done something because I remember there were a couple of weekends there where every time Yuumi got picked, the team just couldn't die. They nonstop healing, you know, healing for 200,000 health or some insane number. So
it was funny because their level 1 start was a lot like our famous Yuumi level 1 start. It wasn't quite as bad. They only lost summoners, not kills, but
right. But the kills started coming shortly after that. You know, you get the Yuumi stunned out as she's kind of in transit, and there you go. There's the easiest kill you'll ever get.
Yeah. Just a quick couple of data points along the way to tell you how about the smash that this game was. I already pointed out Drake's, right? 10 minutes in, we're up 3,500 gold.
Wow.
All lanes winning, all 3 winning. We took bot turret at 12 minutes. And we saw, oh gosh, I should have said this earlier because we saw it earlier too, but Ryoma's like doing his almost solo killing people.
Yeah,
you know, so
close,
he gets like an inch away from like if he just spat on him, it would be enough damage.
Yeah.
Oh man, and he was doing that. We opened 5-1 on turrets, 6,000 gold up like early in the game. Like it's just like
it was dominant, man.
It was nice.
And I talked earlier about just like how you can feel good about the way this went, right? Like it's not the best possible outcome. We didn't get second, but I'm super happy about it, especially because the game that locked us into that play-in game for second was so decisive. Nobody is questioning that we were the better team. Like it couldn't have gone more our direction, I guess, if we aced, like had a perfect game. But
yeah,
you know, this felt like a perfect game in a lot of ways. 20 kills to 4. They only got 1 turret.
Yeah. We should point out this game and I think the previous game too, because we've focused so much on the negatives about Stunt. We should point out that he had pretty good games against FlyQuest and against CLG even. But especially against FlyQuest, I wouldn't say, like a lot of people were like Stunt played great this weekend. I wouldn't go that far. I really wouldn't. But especially against FlyQuest, like it looked a lot better to the point where I wasn't worried about what he was doing ever. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you know, everyone's going to mess up a play here or there, but I wasn't saying like, all right, Stunt's about to throw the game because he's going to do this. You know, it didn't feel like that at all.
Right,
like I didn't have to type out my little, like, okay, don't want to jinx him here in the notes because it was working. And so I think on totality, his play this weekend was better. Now, unfortunately, and we'll get into this with the next game, there was a very bad mistake made by him today, but totality wise across the 4 games, I felt like we got probably the best Stunt form that we've had. So I was pretty happy with that. It's a nice time to be finding your highest performance out of your bot lane. You know, Someday has been cooking since week 1.
Yeah.
Ryoma has been a gradual build. Meteos for the most part has been good. But like now it's like, oh, and cool, we might have a bot lane now too. You know, it's at the exact right time.
Yeah, I still am not convinced that this is like my overall opinion hasn't changed. I still think this is where you're looking in the off season. This is the position you got to be thinking about. There's some interesting things to think about though. It feels like they were more successful as a duo in the bot lane when Cody Sun was playing more aggressive earlier. And
yeah, it did.
It's a little bit chicken or the egg, right? Like, was Cody Sun playing more aggressive because he was on a champ that he liked and could play aggressively early, and so Stunt could kind of help play cleanup? Like, I guess what I'm getting at is, was it Stunt who was enabling that, or was it just Cody who said, okay, I'm going to play this aggressively, and Stunt come along for the ride?
You know, I think it was probably the nature of the pick. It's like, all right, Lucian, let's go. Like, let's fight. Yeah. Let's push early. Let's get the early Lucian spike and roll with it. So it worked.
And Braum is perfect for that, right?
And like, Braum,
he's
Braum
there to
work.
put the shield down and make sure that you can walk back out after you've dashed to get your second auto. Like, you can put everything into it and then just kind of trot back, and that's good. That's how it should work.
Yeah. So yes, I do want to clarify. Like, I still am of the opinion that if we want to like seriously contend for title, then yeah, we need a new support. You know, but we can't make that move right now. And so to know that that the condition of our bot lane is probably the best it's been all split is a good sign.
Yep. What I'm not convinced of, Cole, is that team fight is in a significantly different place than what I think we saw a different look from the bot lane in the lane phase. Team fight is where, and kind of mid game is where I'm still question mark pinging a lot of times.
I don't know, because I mean, like, look at TSM. Like, we had to win significant team fights to pull out that victory.
I'm only talking about Stunt.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm only talking about Stunt.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I should have clarified that. And we can get into it when we get to EG a little bit more, because I know there's one you want to talk about. There's one I want to talk about. Well,
let's just do it then. Unfortunately, the miracle run came to an end with EG today. So this was the game to decide second place, since we dispatched a fly quite easily, put them in fourth place. And this game it felt a little like CLG to me, actually, in the beginning. Like, both teams are kind of trading punches here and there. I think, here, let me pull up my notes for this game. I believe we actually did a lot early, and we had a 1,500 gold lead 5 minutes into the game. We saw Someday performing miracles, wearing his Jesus set skin.
Unbelievable.
And it was crazy. And so we were trading punches back and forth, and then they kind of like steadily chipped the gold lead away. Like, it was very gradual, and they kept just making smart decisions with the way that they were playing the champions that they had. Malzahar pick was a little unexpected. I think it kind of threw us off guard.
For sure.
Provided maybe the cleanest turret dive you've ever seen, you know, with the suppression and everything. So yeah, it was kind of weird. I felt like almost like they gradually figured us out throughout the game, but it never felt totally out of reach. Right. Yeah. Like, so I was like, okay, cool. We could claw our way back in there. Drakes were going well. I think we took the first two Drakes, I think. Yeah, we took the first two Drakes. We got Rift Herald. Ryoma was up in lane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was feeling in reach. And like, sometimes mistakes come at a very costly time. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes a mistake can be a different size mistake depending on when it happens, and sometimes it can be a colossal mistake. And I think our mistake happened at the exact worst time.
Yeah, please tell us about what that mistake was, Cole.
I don't want to talk about it because I didn't like it at all. This, like, basically, I'm trying to think of what the game state was at this time. I know we had just like gotten a kill onto Jizuke, who was split pushing. He was probably back up for this. I can't remember. I think he was back up. Yeah, that's right. Because we had to chase Jizuke down into our base.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? He wasted so much of our time.
Yeah.
So much of our like time
killed
and
3 of our
spells.
players because they spent a full death's timer worth of time doing nothing.
That's a great way to say it. So it's like all but the gold, right? He basically he said, no, I don't want you to play on the Rift. I want you to play in your base right now.
Yeah, it'd be like a Mordekaiser ult that lasted for 45 seconds.
Right. So that was like a crazy moment. And after that, we had like a bad fight that resulted in them getting Drake. And then when Baron was up, Stunt, I don't know what he was doing. He roamed into topside jungle.
Yeah.
Probably just trying to like look at that brush and see if there was a ward there and get out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. He just face checked for no reason, gets caught out at the absolute worst time.
Yeah. It's one way I always have to tell if a play is truly a bad play is if the casters, who are otherwise, and even in this sense, very professional, if their reaction is, oh no, what are you doing? That's how you can always tell. It could be the first game you've ever watched League of Legends, and you watch that and be like, well, that guy messed up. Don't know what happened, but I know he did something wrong. Yeah. And this is one of those rare times that everybody kind of just is like a needle scratch, right? Like the observer went back real quick. And we saw just it was like 1v4 and no one else was around. Okay.
And so
only.
And chat's pointing out there was a Cody Sun death right before this, which is important, but there is a difference at this point in the game between you have one person down and then you have 2 people down around Baron. You know what I mean? So with Cody down, Stunt should have been extra cautious at that time to be handling the task of like vision around Baron Pit, right?
Yeah.
And dang, that was a very poorly timed death.
Yep.
And it was impossible to recover from then. And they basically just like decided to end the game. They said, all right, cool, we win.
I know, it ended so quickly.
Like we had a bad fight up top and then they just ran us over. And so I think the game ended in 28 minutes.
It was quick. I will say this. In the games I've played as support, there's a moment in that game. It's if you've not played support a lot, you might not know what it is. Jungle might be able to relate. There is a feeling that comes over you. It's like a chill. It's like a sense of dread that you get. You're like, oh, I gotta go sweep that bush. I know there's 3 people in that bush. I gotta go sweep. Okay, I'm gonna go sweep it. And then you get there and they kill you, and you're like, I knew it was gonna happen. I just knew it, but I had to go. It's the unenviable task of the guy. It's like the guy who you send with a message, and you're like, he's not coming back. He's in war, right?
But
he's not coming back. He's got to go. He's definitely not coming back, though.
But
so the best players don't do that. But I can relate because I've been there and I've had the feeling. And I'm sure as soon as he saw them, he's like, man.
Knew it. Knew it. Well, if you knew it, then why didn't you take a buddy with you? Why didn't you use the buddy system in the jungle? And why did you do it when the bot laner is dead? You know, and out of the play.
It was not the best.
So yeah, the timing on that was just bad. And I'm sure it was like, okay, they probably reset to set up for, you know, also.
Right.
But man.
But every time you go to check a bush for vision, you're rolling the dice. And then on this one, they came up 1s. Snake Eyes, double 1s, which in the game I'm talking about is the lowest roll you can get. So he lost.
Yeah. Yep. So very unfortunate. Like I said, some mistakes come at a time when they cost you everything, and this was one of them.
I'd like to talk about
the game was finished when that was done. Oh, go ahead, please talk about
wasn't
mistakes.
The one that immediately lost us the game, but I think there's something that I find so fascinating in League of Legends. There's a very manicured sense of like outward facing player communication, right? Like people can be losing the games, their season's kind of falling apart, they're having a horrible split, your crown and you're released from your contract, and basically all you ever say is like, we're working hard and we kind of know what we have to fix, we're gonna get there, I believe in me and I believe in the team, it's gonna be great. Can't wait to see you in playoffs. Right. And then the next day it's like, I'm leaving the country and I probably will never return. So thanks, and we'll see you later. There is not a difference. It's one to the next. So I say that because there are some plays that happen, and I watch them happen, and I go, that guy is so mad right now. He's so mad at his teammate, and he'll never say anything about it. And if asked, he'll say, we're working hard and we're figuring some things out. But there was a play in the bot lane where Meteos has kind of been jumped on, and he gets suppressed. And Stunt walks up, and he drops a lantern on suppressed Meteos, and Meteos is like, sure, I'll just right-click that. He's like, oh, can't. I'm suppressed. And then Stunt misses a point-blank hook. And I'm talking like he's basically rubbing shoulders with, I think it was the Lee Sin. Couldn't have really been closer. Missed it. And then, in anticipation of assuming that he's landed this great hook, drops the box, Q into R.
He did drop the box. That's what I remember.
No one around it. It does nothing. It wasn't even a zoning R because no one wanted to go that way. And I don't, if I went back and watched, maybe I'd see that he also tried to flay the person he didn't hook into the box that didn't need to be there. That's the kind of play that just makes your jungler. He probably started a surrender vote at that point. I wouldn't have been surprised, right? If that was his immediate reaction. It's just, or like the DC,
Yeah.
So I it's a little bit of levity. I'm not really serious about all of this stuff, but I do know that kind of a play is frustrating for people, especially the people who are looking at it like, come on, man, just get one of there are 3 or 4 people there. Just get one of them at least.
Just one.
The hook whiff is one of the worst feelings. Hitting a hook, great.
Yeah.
You missed that hook, man. It's a rough one.
It was like Broxa missing the point blank cocoon this past weekend. Yeah.
Like, I'm positive that Doublelift is still mad about that. He's probably still fuming right now about that cocoon.
Yeah. Well, aside from individual outplays, just the question, we've talked about this before. There are some macro highlights from us in the way that we've, like, Drake controlled this weekend, by the way, or for example, but there's also the fact that, like I said, it just looks like EG in particular had better and cleaner macro than we did.
Yep.
More decisive about what they were doing. And I thought there were moments where CLG showed that as well. And then obviously we were clawing back from TSM. So my question about macro is this something that we can fix going into playoffs, or is this just like it is what it is? And if that is the case, that we can plan on getting out macroed, like what do we do about it?
I think in some cases the plan is you just hope that you can get some individual outplays and offset the fact that the other team is a step ahead of you. I always think about one of the first times I really got a sense for the power of a team who has a stronger macro game is when I started watching in international events. I started watching the LCK play. I was like, oh my gosh, this is mean. It's like they knocked one guy out of lane, and that just snowballed into them getting the Baron somehow 20 minutes down the road. It's like it just all falls apart. It's got to be one of the most frustrating things. It's like they're always ahead of us. They always know where we're going. They're anticipating what we're going to do, and they're setting up better. So I think it is one of those things where if you can't do it as well, it's very hard to compensate for it. My personal thought on this game is I think there were a number of things that happened. The people who were there just didn't ever have enough damage. And I think that is one of the things that can happen with Set specifically is he has a lot of burst damage for a tank, right? That's the haymaker, and that's the ability, the power of that. And it leads to some crazy plays, but sustained damage in a fight is not there. And when your team, your sustained damage can't be there because they're dead or they're being chased off or whatever, it's very hard to sway a fight as someday. Like, he just didn't really have much of a chance in this game. And Meteos' Sejuani was never going to be the one to deal. He could barely scrape a kill together when it was him and someone else against somebody, right? There's one play where it was him and it was Ryoma, and Jizuke almost ripped a kill off of him because they just couldn't deal with enough damage. So I think that it was a number of things. Some of these individual misplays, just kind of sloppy plays, as well as the pieces that were there not being equipped to actually turn a fight in our favor. So when those things are happening, it becomes almost impossible to outplay a team on a macro sense, because you don't have the pieces you need to have an advantage, right? Like, we weren't able to really punish people in the same way. Like, it took us so long to kill Jizuke. I know it's a little bit of him being slippery. We also just weren't dealing a ton of damage, right? He had so many chances to kind of have his cooldowns reset and keep going.
Yeah.
It just took a long time to get stuff done.
And I think, because that might be one of my potential answers to this question is, if you pick lane bully matchups to where opponents have to really stay back and like catch the waves, and prevent them from crashing in, like, that could be a way to just occupy their time so that they're unable to find map movements and they're unable to find little leads from picks or whatever. But the problem is, it's like, it's not a given that we're ever going to be smashing lanes. Someday is as close to a given as you can be. Mm-hmm. Like, even in disadvantaged matchups, like, he'll probably, win out. But definitely with Ryoma, what we've seen is the early game in lane being his biggest struggle. And while he did have CS leads, I think, in the first 15 minutes in a couple of these games, I don't think that's the norm. And I don't think that's changing. Even when he's on champions that can maybe bully a little more, like a Syndra, that can shove waves quickly. So I'm not, and bot lane's a little bit unpredictable. Today, we definitely saw some lane dominance out of Cody and Stunt, but who knows if we can plan on that. But when you're talking about the level of competition we're going up against, it's like, how are we going to open up significant lane advantages against Niski or against Licorice, or against their bot lane? Like, it doesn't seem super likely. And so I just feel like this may end up being one of the fatal flaws for us.
Yeah. And for me, at this point, I am more confident, and I prefer when we take those champs. Like, I get that Set's a powerful champion and he team fights really well, right? And he can be the deciding factor in a team fight, but it's not through the damage he's dealing. Usually it's through his ult. It's through, the crowd control he can bring. He's got a lot of toughness. Like, these are all good things. Someday doesn't have the same ability on a champion like Set to take over a team fight, right? Kind of single-handedly. So I think that until we can get our other lanes to the point where they're reliably able to create that pressure themselves, I do think we need to keep finding someday these picks that allow him to, like, look at the best games he's had, the Lucians, the Aatroxes. He's had a lot of good games on Set, and so I don't want to take away from that. Mm-hmm. But these are the champs where he can kind of create his own lane kingdom, to borrow that terminology. And those are the games where I think it's really hard to try to figure out how to attack us, because if you disregard him, he makes you pay, right?
Yeah. Well, so again, we're looking forward now to this playoff match, because I think what was supposed to have been earned through the way we played this weekend didn't actually end up being what was earned in the end tally. Because C9 kind of threw a wrench into that. And look, I think it was pretty smart by C9, the way it's going to play out for them. Like, I don't know, they seem really strong. I think it's their title to lose,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Everybody expected that they would pick FlyQuest because FlyQuest looked like definitely the easier team to beat. I mean, their form has been much worse than ours lately, and we just absolutely obliterated them in the tiebreaker game. And C9 says, yeah, all right, we'll take 100 Thieves.
Right.
Which is a huge wrench, and we're going to have a conversation about the playoff format in a minute, but the way it stands is that we have to play first against C9, which sucks because our likelihood of winning that is much lower than it would be against anybody, literally anybody else.
Yep.
Fortunately, we have double elimination, right? So this is the first time we've gotten that. because of the new format. And so it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, like, yeah, if we lose C9, which we probably will, that's fine. We're still in the running. But because of the seeding, we go down to face TSM. You know what I mean? It's not like we got Golden Guardians to play. We have TSM, and TSM, who we did beat. They're inconsistent, right? But they have the potential to fight pretty well. They're the only team to take down C9, and when they beat C9, they looked crazy good doing it. Yeah. And let's not forget that TSM beats us in series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, TSM to me is a series team.
Yeah.
Like they're a best of team. And I think Bjergsen specifically is such a problem. It's so hard to come up with enough different looks that you can reliably beat him in. We're starting best of fives, right? That we can beat him 3 of 5. You get 1, I think, against Bjergsen, and you feel really great. Getting 3 is really hard. He's so good, man.
Yeah, the one we got, he had a pentakill.
Yeah, he had his stat line was insane. He finished that game 10-3-6 in a losing game with 367 CS, higher than anybody on our team except for Cody Sun by 1. So, yeah, say no more, right? Like, he is that player. He's completely able and capable of taking over a game in a series, and he's so versatile. So, that's a concern. That's a concern.
Yeah, and he's
gonna watch us play first.
Yeah, that's the other part. Okay, so let's just go ahead and talk about this format, because if things played out predictably, right, like the way you would think, C9 picks FlyQuest, that means we would play EG again. We have a legit chance to beat EG in a best of 5, and if we lose, guess who we're gonna play? The winner of what is it, Golden Guardians and what's the other team? Oh no, that's who we play. We go down to face Golden Guardians because they're already in that position.
Right.
And then if we win that, we get the winner of TSM and whoever C9 beat, aka FlyQuest.
Yeah.
So either FlyQuest, a team which we've smashed, or TSM, a team which, we've beat, even though it might be hard. So it's like the route is way different.
Yeah.
If this plays out the way it's supposed to.
If you think about it that way, if we end up in the losers bracket, which seems very, very likely given C9 being the team that is good, you're going to play TSM most likely first or second round of losers. Personally, I don't feel great about beating C9, beating Golden Guardians, losing to C9, beating Golden Guardians, losing to TSM, right? Like, I would look at that playoff run and feel like, versus C9 then TSM. I mean, I get it. Like, it's you always want to have a series under your belt, but a series against Golden Guardians, if you can get that win, is in no way comparable to picking up a win against TSM or C9, right? It's just a completely different like tier caliber of team.
Yeah. And just to clarify, because Jackson in the chat says, I think we just play TSM. No, in this case, it's like if you look at the spring playoff format, which I'd show on the screen if I was prepared to do it, but the loser of the 2 and 3 seed game goes down to play the 6th seed, which would be Golden Guardians in this case. So yeah, it's just like, that feels bad that it worked out this way. And I totally get that. Wait,
so the loser of the 2 seed game goes to 6.
Right. And the
loser of the 3 goes to play 5.
No, so here, first seed chooses between 3rd and 4th seed.
Right.
Say they choose 4th seed, that game is called A1. Okay.
Right.
The loser of A1.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right. Plays the 5th seed. The loser of the other game, A2, plays 6th seed. So we would be playing Golden Guardians. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just like, it sucks to have that path. I get that you need to eventually, like, if you want to win the title, you eventually have to beat the best teams, right? You have to beat C9. But at least, like you pointed out, at least in that case, there's not the whole like TSM is just waiting and seeing this best of 5 from us and getting to prepare for it. You know, like that just feels different.
It is so weird.
The likelihood that we'll advance further in the bracket is higher. And now it's like, yeah, so even if we were to somehow miraculously beat C9 we would likely have to do it a second time to win. You know what I mean? It's so, I don't know. It's just, it's tough. And I'm not, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm totally against this whole thing. Like a lot of people, if you read through our mentions on Twitter, a lot of people were very angry about this format because of the way it played out. I'm not sure I'm 100% like, oh no, I don't think this is the way to do it. But it does kind of feel like all that work we did to get the 3rd seed instead of the 4th seed didn't end up mattering. And that feels pretty bad.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think Reaper put in like, why are we giving the 5th and 6th seed this front row seat to like whatever strats we have? And, they don't have to prepare, like they can kind of just wait. He's free scouting, right? Like, it does feel like you're giving them a significant advantage, at least in that sense of they just get to kind of sit back and watch, which maybe that's to compensate for the fact that they're single elimination, everyone else is double. But
I wanted to read the actual Reaper tweet because I think it laid it out. He said, this playoff setup, I personally think 5th and 6th place teams play each other's and losers from winners bracket fight each other are more. Sorry, it's not fully grammatically, so I'm trying to sort through it. But okay, so for this playoff set, I personally think 5th and 6th place teams play each other and losers from winner bracket fight each other are more. That makes more sense to me because 5th and 6th place teams watch a best of 5 prepared better, and losers from there don't have any info and have to jump right into the game. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like the teams that are waiting in 5th and 6th place are able to just like get more intel on how things are going to play off in a series, because this is the first time in 2020 that we're seeing series, Right.
Yeah. No one knows what any of these teams are in a best of series. You might know what they're like, but you've never seen this exact iteration of their roster in a series before. That matters. And there's a significant benefit to seeing that in action. It's entirely different in scrims. It's entirely different in best of ones. That feels bad.
It feels bad, man. So that's where we find ourselves. So I think, again, I'm not 100% mad at it because you eventually have to beat teams if you want to win a title.
I really like that we have double elimination. I'm a huge fan of double elimination tournaments. I think it's a cool thing to do, if for no other reason than that we're guaranteed to watch 2 playoff series with our team that we all like.
Yeah,
I'm all for that.
Sure.
If you earn it, I think that's a cool benefit to have. I think COD does it great. Back at least last season, I thought that was a super cool way to do it. So I like that, and I like that it's not just like a standard. There's problems with every format you're going to have. So
yeah, but it would have been nice to feel like making 3rd place actually had an advantage over 4th, which it seems like we're being penalized for 3rd instead of 4th this time. Just right, with how C9 decided to play it. But you know what? 200 IQ by them. I commend them for it. I think unless we beat them. So speaking of that, predictions, Jordan, for this series, what are you calling?
I am hoping, Cole, that we take a game from C9. I would love it if the final line were 3-1. I am concerned that it will be a 3-0, and not because I think that would be an embarrassing loss or something we should be ashamed of. This team is so good. One team has beat them this entire split, and so to beat them 3 times in the course of 5 games feels like a nearly impossible task. I am optimistic, Cole, and I love to root for the home team, but I am not foolish, and so I'm not picking us to win the series. I'm just hoping that we can get a game off of them.
Root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. It's gonna be a shame, man. I
thought you were building up to something there.
Firmly in the 3-0 camp. I think we are gonna get swept out of this part of the bracket by C9, and I'm sorry to say that because I would love to just pump up, the troops here and be like, no, we got this, we've got this. No, we'll pull out something unexpected. I can't see it. And especially not before we've had a little more sustained confidence built up, because some of the wins that we've gotten have been kind of heroic in terms of like likelihood, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if we were like on a roll and just completely dominating everybody, like if we had smashed TSM, if we had smashed EG, I might be like, all right, cool. I think we could take one, maybe even two, maybe even two. But no, I just like, we need momentum on our side when we do this. And so it's really hard to envision us winning a game. And I try and give the honest, what I believe truth on these things instead of playing homerism on this. So I'm just saying it like it is, which puts us down to playing TSM right after that. That's on the horizon. Jordan, I'm not going to make you make a prediction, but do you have any thoughts on if we have to go play a TSM, what do you think that means?
I think it's 3-2. I think TSM takes it. I think they're a series team. I think they've got Bjergsen. They have enough other good enough pieces that I think that's the way it's going to go.
It's kind of rough to know that we've seen all the TSM League of Legends that we're going to see before this potential series too. Mm-hmm. Because it sure would be nice to have another weekend to see them play a series and see how they look.
Right.
But
get a little intel.
Alas, we are not going to get that chance. Thank you for the format.
Yeah, not that it matters about Broken Blade. I'll just put that out there. I don't think he could play a champion or any pocket pick that would surprise Someday and put us in a bad spot. I think Someday is very clearly better. And I think that if those are the top two top laners, then there's absolutely no question at all that Someday is the best in the league, which I would say Cole puts him into a very elite class of conversation, which we'll get to in just a second. Do you have a prediction for this series?
For the TSM series?
Yep.
I'm not gonna actually predict before it happens.
Okay.
I'm gonna wait and see. But I think it's tough. I will say I think it's gonna be tough for us. I am just in general, I'm worried about this team in a best of 5. Not being able to catch anybody by surprise, not being able to be overlooked, which I think happened to us a lot. I've got some concerns. And again, the FlyQuest draft, I think, was important for us to establish, hey, there are some other champions that we're going to be able to win with, but man, I got to see more before I really feel like we have a great shot in a best of 5. I feel like TSM is one of those teams where best of 5 favors them.
Yeah, I agree.
Just, purely there's a format advantage there. So not going to predict it yet, but I'm not feeling great. Here's what I'm feeling great about, Jordan.
Yes.
I think that after this past weekend, Someday has a legit case for the MVP. Do I think he's going to be called the MVP? Do I think he's going to get the award? No. But I think he has firmly established himself as an MVP candidate. He has not really been talked about like that. Like even today, which game was it where I think it was Freak was saying something about like they have a potential MVP candidate in, who was it that he was talking about? He like specifically called out someone on one of the other teams.
Jizuke.
Was it Jizuke?
Yeah. He's saying that if he had played at this level, the whole split.
Was he? Okay. Well, it's like he was like specifically calling out somebody else when Someday was in play. It's like, you're not going to say anything about Someday? Like, that's been a topic of conversation. We've talked about his wins above replacement on JLXP, and that number has probably risen. Yeah.
What is the dive? It was the dive on one of the, or not the dive, sorry, Hotline League, one of the recent weeks. There's a guy on who said he is the MVP and it's not close, I think is what he was saying.
Yeah, but it's probably going to go to a C9 player. In my heart of hearts, I'm hoping there's some way that like people split votes across the C9 players, and that weakens the case, and then Someday gets everybody's second place vote, Right. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to end up being like Niski. Niski's just looked like amazing the whole split to me. He's looked just crazy good, and I think he's going to end up taking it. But I feel like Someday we'll get second or third place in the voting.
I can't remember if they MVP vote before playoffs or after playoffs.
I think it's right before finals, right?
I can't ever remember. That would have a huge influence in it.
Maybe Jackson's in chat. Maybe he can tell us.
Yeah. The EG game today didn't help. If he had a pop-off game against EG and got a second place, I think he's almost kind of the favorite.
But he had like 2 crazy highlights in this game, even though we lost.
He did.
And a lot of the case for him in people's eyes has been the 1v9, right?
Yeah. So I think if you're talking about, like, there are a lot of different things where I think he is the far and away favorite in the league. Like, I think mechanically, I don't think there's anybody putting on a show like Someday. I mean, you have good plays here and there, but reliably, this dude is just doing stuff that makes people look stupid. He's that much better than other people. It's kind of crazy, man. So I'm with you. I think he's done enough to. The fact that he's in the conversation is, well, it's a lot less crazy now that we finished third.
Right.
You know, like, if we were in a place where we squeaked in at 6 and this guy is in the MVP conversation, like, wow, that says a lot. The margin by which we weren't 6th is not huge. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think a lot of it will depend on when they cast that vote. If it's before we get into playoffs, there's no real chance. If he puts on a show against C9, if we beat C9 and he has a big role to play in that, I think he's a favorite.
Yeah, assuming voting hasn't already taken place. I think we lost Jackson too, so maybe we don't have an answer on that. Okay. But yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. Like I said, I don't think he's going to win it or anything, but I'm really proud of him. Jackson says voting before playoffs. So yeah, this will be decided already.
I think it's going to go to somebody on C9. I'm sure the people who vote are going to coordinate this to say, like,
I don't think it's that many people that vote. I thought it was like 14 people that vote, like 14 media or something like that. I thought it was like a kind of small group of people, kind of like it is in the NBA, to be honest. But
yeah.
Here's what I'll say. Okay, let's.
I wouldn't love to have somebody get it on what feels like a technicality. I'll just say that, like, where everybody forgets to pick the same person, and so he gets it. Like, that would feel like,
Jackson says there's players, coaches, analysts, and press. I don't know what the combination is, if they do like waiting on the results of each one of those in groups or whatever. But I remember, for example, like the press list is pretty small that has a vote. He says it's like 60 people total. So we'll see what happens there. So let's finish with this. I just want to say, and I highly doubt that, like, you know, Papa Smithy or Zix or Joseph or whatever are like listening to this, but I just want to say, like, everybody doubted the strength of the roster moves that were made. And I think that what has happened this split has been, to some extent, a factor of the league just not being in the strongest position. I will say that. But even given that that's the case, I'm just so blown away that we ended up in 3rd place in this split, and we should seriously appreciate this. And like, fans should seriously take a second and be like, you know what? No matter how this playoff run goes, like, we definitely outperformed what everyone's expectations were. And that means something. That is meaningful. You know what I mean? And I'm thankful for that, because you remember last year how it felt just to be losing those games. Like, we had the 4-14 split.
Yeah.
Like, how terrible that was. I mean, seeing TL make the one tweak to their roster that should be better on paper and then drop completely out of playoffs. We know that feeling. We have been
finishing
there.
9th. Cole finishing 9th, by the way. Can relate.
We know what that is like. I mean, not after we never reached the highs that they did, obviously, but still, it's just like, so to be able to rebound this quickly into a place where we have won more games than we have lost, and we were in contention for 2nd place at the end of the split, man, I am like so happy about that. Yeah. I'm so happy, and I'm just really proud of the job that they've done, and I
it feels earned.
It does, and I hope that when we get through this playoff runs, people don't forget the work that was done this split.
Right.
I still think we've got a long way to go before we seriously like have a shot at a title. We'll see how the playoffs go. I don't know, but it's just the amount of progress that we made this year has been incredible. And I'm, as a fan, and doing it more money efficient and like everything, I'm just like, I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, I think I'm sure the office is happy with how this has gone. Right. If you've been watching Twitter, you know that that's how people are feeling right now. Don't lose sight of that. You know, it is an imposing challenge ahead of us in playoffs, but never for a second think we would have been better off just not making it, or like why even bother? Because
Yeah.
this is why you put in the hard work, so you can go and play against the best team in the league, right? Like, think about this as the finals, because this is what the finals would be if we were to make it there. So hey, we will know where we stack up against the best team in the league, and that's an exciting thing to be able to say. A lot of teams don't get to know that.
Yeah, don't even have the shot.
Don't get the shot. The other thing I'll say is this. At no point, Cole, up until like 3 weeks ago, this all seemed very unclear. And so I just want to acknowledge and give credit as well that we stuck with it, even when we had people who it seemed very unclear if they were going to be able to bring it together. You know, Meteos had a rough first round robin. We spent a lot of time talking about him, and I'd say he's turned it around. Like, I am not in any way concerned about that.
Yeah.
I think every player on this squad, they're barring someday, there are things that I'm very interested to continue to watch and see how they develop and improve, and what can we do if this, that, or the other thing. But I'd say for the first time in a while, and honestly, like maybe a long time, I feel like we have a pretty solid foundation, and that with a couple of minor tweaks, we could make something really special. Like, I don't feel like we need to do this crazy moonshot to finally figure out how to get ourselves to the place we want to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where we were before, right? And it didn't work. And I guess that's kind of what the definition of a moonshot is, right? Sometimes you don't make it. So I think that's a good thing. We're making incremental progress, and we're seeing within the span of one split alone what that progress can look like. And it looks like third place, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Right. And so I'm glad that we chose the trust the Papa route. Every split's different. Every season is different. And I feel like no matter what happens at this point, though, spring 2020 has been a success. And so I'm really glad. Success. And because we've checked that box already, it's like now we just get to enjoy the show for the rest.
Yeah.
And everything that comes after this, any additional wins, any advancement in this bracket is just like cherry on the top. So we're in a great place to be watching 100 Thieves League of Legends right now, and I'm very happy with that. So with more patience, who knows where we can go. So I trust that those decisions will be carefully weighed and planned out. And in the meantime, we didn't end up being a team who just lost for a long time. And that in and of itself, being a fan of a lot of professional sports teams who have lost for a long time, and there's no end to the losing in sight. I can tell you that is a big deal. So
yeah. Like our run of losing has officially ended.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
I'm very excited about that. So thank you to the people who have made these decisions, to the players who have worked hard and been grinding this split out through the bad times. It's a good time to be a fan. So let's sit back and watch what will prove to be a very interesting series to watch, the C9 series. In the meantime, Some Winners Cup continues. Group Stage B is on Thursday. So we will have, we've got the Flex Queue by Ibrahim. We've got the Jersey program by Selena, and the last team, Late Game Investors with Blake. They will be doing battle this Thursday on Rec League. That will be 9 p.m. Central.
Don't miss it. That's been really fun so far. I'm sure that will continue. And hopefully we can make some arrangements with the C9 bodied guys to do something, whether it's a podcast or like community games or something, but hopefully we can get something going with them as well this week. Should be a fun time. All right. So thank you to all of you for watching, for being here in Twitch chat, for being in our Discord, and just giving us like a really fun couple of months here of League of Legends, which, given everything else that's been going on, has been so needed. So, And a lot of you guys have earned Real One's credit, because when you started watching this team, it was all up in the air. And now we're third place and we're in playoffs, and you get to say, yeah, okay, I'm not a bandwagon fan.
That's right.
I was around at the start of this thing. So
Street
Kudos
cred.
to you.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So as always, guys, we love you. We miss you already.